What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Debbie Royale YouTube channel. Week 1 is in the books, and we're here to talk about week 2 of the NFL season. Are the Jets doomed? Are the Bears doomed? We'll get into all that after the intro. Make sure you like and subscribe while it's playing. All right, guys. Like I said, we're back. It's week 2 of the NFL season. My fantasy teams did well. Randy's always do well, so I don't even have to ask him how he did this first week. But first, we're going to kick this off with, if you watched last week's show, we did storylines to watch. And I think that we're going to keep that going because we ended up with a lot of storylines from the first week of games. And one of those would be Aaron Rodgers' torn Achilles. Randy, are the Jets doomed? Like, do they have a shot if they keep Zach Wilson at quarterback?
Uh, I think they have a shot, honestly, to make the playoffs with Zach Wilson. I'll say
Okay.
that. So, I mean, they had 3 different quarterbacks last year, and they almost made the playoffs, correct?
Yeah.
So, I do think there's a very good chance that the growth of Zach Wilson that we kind of saw throughout the offseason, at least maturity-wise, should be good. Honestly, he did not play well stepping in there. Obviously, he wasn't prepared to do it. So hopefully we see some better things this week. It was against a really good defense, the Bills. So plus minus there. It was bad weather, plus minus bad field. I mean, one of his best play was really Garrett Wilson's best play. And another really big play, he was falling down and hit a wide receiver out of the backfield, but he fell on his own feet. So it's kind of like I saw improved footwork from him through the preseason, and then the second he was thrust into it during the season, kind of went back. But they won a game that he basically played the whole thing against a really tough opponent, and he did not play well.
Yeah.
So I think this defense can keep them in it as long as he doesn't make major mistakes. I think it's one of those, I think almost anyone could win 6 games with this team kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure there's a QB on the market that you go trade your now first-round pick that you have to go get that would be better.
Sure. Yeah, see, I kind of think like exploring Carson Wentz would be a smart idea. Just bring him into the room, say that Zach's the starter, let Wentz learn the offense and see how that goes and see if, you start splitting reps. Maybe it's really tough to split reps in the middle of the season though. And so I think right now, Robert Saleh came out and said, this is Zach's team now. And I kind of think that that's the way they're going to roll. I don't think they're doomed. I think this defense is too good. And honestly, Garrett Wilson is too good for any quarterback to fail. I know the stats, last year, I think Garrett Wilson was wide receiver 60 something with Zach Wilson and like inside the top 20 with everyone else. I get it, but this isn't the same Zach Wilson, I don't think. And I know that we saw some of the same Zach Wilson out there, but he's still going to have Rodgers there. It's not like Rodgers is gone. He's going to still mentor him, I think. I think he'll, yeah, well, in theory. But I just kind of think that this is a better situation for Zach to be in. And I'm kind of excited to watch this team because that would be quite the story. You could feel the air like go out of that stadium when that injury happened. And I'm hoping for New York Jets fans that they're able to kind of taste the playoffs at least. The problem is the Rodgers acquisition gave them a Super Bowl ceiling, and they don't have that anymore, in my opinion.
The Rodgers signing gave them a division winning chance. That's the other thing. Like, yes, they beat the Bills, but I don't think they beat the Bills again later in the year. I don't think the Bills play anywhere near as bad again. It's a weird situation where with Rodgers there's stability, without there's not. I think they're good enough to win some games. I think Zach can improve more. I do think they'd most likely sign Carson Wentz. Even if they still stick to Zach's team, they don't have a good backup anymore. Mike White is gone. So they need someone else there. And again, the only person maybe you could get Stafford right now for a first and maybe a third back or something. Like, that's the
Right.
best you got and that's trading away your first. Like it's just not worth it.
Right. And so then you would say you traded 2 firsts and a second to get Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. And when you put it that way, it kind of sounds okay, right?
Two
Like,
seconds, right? Oh, two first
yeah,
and 2 seconds,
2
or
firsts
first
and
and
2
2
seconds.
seconds. Yeah,
Yeah, first and 2 seconds for Rodgers, and then you would have to give up at least a first for Stafford. And with how Stafford looked that first week, I kind of think it would take more than a first to get him from the Rams.
situation. But honestly, the doomed part for me for the Jets is more what does this mean for Rodgers for the future? Yes, he's 39. Uh, Achilles at 39 is
Tough.
terrible to get back
Yeah.
from, especially for a guy like I think physically Rodgers could come back. I think he had even talked about intentions of playing until he's 43 or 45 now that he's with a new team. But this guy, before he made that decision, had to take 4 different darkness retreats and get away. And I
Yeah.
mean, to do all that just to come back to football, even if you were committing to a few years and then have this, it's tough to see. I think that's the doom situation.
Yeah. He
Worse
did.
than where they were last year with Zach Wilson and Rodgers comes back with a top 15 pick on his team, and we're rolling more.
Yeah, that's true. And I do think, he said he's coming back, but it's tough to take Rodgers at his word,
Yeah.
especially right now before the rehab starts. Like, I think it's certainly something to monitor moving forward. And I do feel bad for Jets fans. It's not often that I feel bad for a New York fan base, but I do feel bad for Jets fans at this point.
Yeah,
So
and in complete fairness, I almost expect J.K. Dobbins to never come back, and he is almost half the age of Rodgers. Like
yeah,
he's a different position. I completely get that, and he looked really healthy and really good before it happened. But I mean, I think he's almost doomed himself, let alone a guy that's about to be 40.
yeah, yeah. Valid point
I
for
can
sure.
barely walk
All
around
right.
and I'm 28.
Yeah, right. Yeah, honestly, I played basketball the other day, and I was very very sore the day after. It was rough. I can't jump anymore, and I'm a few years older than Dobbins. So, okay, let's move on to the Bears offense because this is a very hot topic, especially among Chicago Bears fans right now. There's a lot of panic going on in Chicago. Probably the highest level of panic I've seen surrounding Justin Fields in quite some time, and JT O'Sullivan and Tim Jenkins have done some all 22 breakdowns where they highlighted Justin Fields played really, really badly last week. I was making jokes on Twitter because the offensive line also played bad. Though Chase Claypool doesn't know how to block, unfortunately, and that really penalties, everything went wrong for the Bears. And I was making jokes on Twitter, and then I went back and I sadly watched the film. Justin Fields played terribly. Do you think that this is a bounce back week for him in Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay's got a good defense. I'm
Yeah,
slightly skeptical that this is going to get better this week, but do you think they go back to the quarterback runs that, made them a top 10 offense for
I
at
think you
times last
have
year?
to.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't, and that's the thing. Like, I don't think we going into the season thought they were going to go, okay, well, they're just going to run with the running backs now, and Fields is going to throw for 5,000 yards. We thought this would be the same offense, running in with some better weapons, so the
Yep.
passing game could take a tick up. Not let's completely reinvent the wheel. And this is kind of what they did going into last year. Then they had to change it. So I think
Yep.
it's already time to go back to what the system was before. Maybe it doesn't have to be as run heavy, but to completely take Fields out of the situation of running as much and with the line not improving, which is the only reason you would trust him sit in the pocket more, it makes no sense to get rid of his legs from this game. I think your running backs are really good, at least the trio there. I think you could really move it. Roshan got a lot of snaps. He looked explosive. Herbert looked okay. DJ Moore
Yeah.
looked great. I mean, everyone that wasn't Chase Claypool and everyone that wasn't Jones on the offensive line looked pretty good. I mean, he was the only one that blocked, it felt like. So
Yeah.
it's going to be
Yeah.
a tough bounce back against a really good Tampa Bay defense that is good pass rush, good interior rush defense, good linebacking play. The secondary's got some holes right now, but that's the thing. They're going to be stacking the box now because they just saw the Packers with a well above average defense attack
Yeah.
and attack and destroy this team that really kind of drove down the field twice to start the
Hmm.
game, and then came out the second half and was not able to move the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate too, and I wonder if Luke Getzey factored this in. I'm not giving Getzey any excuses because I will tell you that was one of the worst called games I've seen since the 0-16 Browns. It was a terribly called game, but the Packers primarily play in zone. That's kind of what they traditionally do, and that's what we're going to see from a lot of teams against the Bears. On the other side of things, though, Tampa Bay is very much so a man-heavy defense. So when you start to, what does that mean for Justin Fields and the rushing attack? Well, that means that defenders have to turn their backs to the quarterback. That means that those running lanes should remain open for a little while longer on, those RPO actions and read options and things like that. So I do think we will see a little bit more of that this week. I don't think that the jury is out or the jury is still out on Justin Fields right now. I know a lot of people are saying this is the nail in the coffin, but it's not. That's
Yeah,
that's the week one overreaction in my
yeah,
opinion.
exactly. The only and that's just kind of the same things we talked about last year with them having the first pick. That's the only argument to move on from Fields is they now have their first round pick and the Panthers' first round pick next year, which should both be top 10 unless things improve here, if not number one.
Yeah,
So, which would probably be the Cardinals, let's be honest. So, there's a lot of like, okay, well, at this point, Fields, he hasn't done anything. We're going to have to start negotiating with him next year. Do we
yeah,
just take Drake May and
yeah,
just start over, trade Justin for a first or second, rebuild even longer? Because this line's still bad. And they
I
took the wrong tackle last year. So that's the only argument against Fields. Other than that, it was terrible week one. Almost every team played terrible week one. We're going to see a lot of bounce back and a lot of takes being really cold after week three.
yeah, for sure, including some of my own.
Oh,
I
I'm sure.
we do know this. Okay, last thing here, backfield splits. So just really quickly, Detroit Lions played David Montgomery 55 snaps to Jameer Gibbs' 19. The Rams played Kyron Williams 53 snaps to Cam Akers 28. That was kind of the surprising one, I think. Um, and then the Browns, I put them on here. Jerome Ford got more snaps than I think a lot of people anticipated. 30 snaps to Chubb's 36. Um, you mentioned, Chubb didn't really play in the fourth quarter. I think that contributed to this. I think it is mostly Chubb's backfield. That Browns Bengals game was super weird. Weather was
Yes.
super impactful. So I don't know if we can take a whole lot from that, right?
No, I mean the thing to take there is Ford's going to get touches every game or snaps every game. I mean, and I wouldn't be shocked if he got 8 touches a game to spell Chubb. And Chubb honestly needs that.
Yeah.
Like for him to be his best, he needs some help because he also does break away a lot of big runs. So he
Yeah.
definitely needs some help spelling. And we're going to have the same Chubb. They didn't have to throw the ball this game to the running backs, so we'll see that improve next week and going forward. Just the passing game in general. I don't know which one that favors, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was Chubb. So
Yeah. I think Chubb led the backfield in interceptions in general,
yeah,
right?
it's
I
just,
think he had
I
like three or
think it
four.
was it just wasn't a lot. I mean, it's the same discussion for the Lions with I think Gibbs had 6 uh, attempts at catching the ball.
Yeah.
Montgomery got 0 passing down snaps, but they only threw to the back 6 times.
Right.
I think that's going to change. I think Montgomery will get a couple touches. He's going to lose rushing snaps to Gibbs, who's going to get worked in more, but it's going to be more of a 50-50 split the farther we go. And Gibbs is explosive with his snaps, and Montgomery is efficient with his snaps. So it's a good mix for both.
Yeah, for sure. Gibbs looked like one of the best players on the field. I
He
think him and Amon-Ra.
he
Um,
literally had a touchdown and fell. Like
yeah,
that cut to the right is the touchdown. He slipped. It's
yeah,
plain and simple.
yeah, for sure. Kyron Williams, Cam Akers. Do you think this sticks? Do you think Kyron's the RB1 there?
The worst thing here is I got no idea because this
I
kind of
know.
came out of nowhere. We literally didn't. I mean, we knew Kyron through the training camp was working in, and he was going to get snaps, and uh, this is like a kind of a a second year jump from what we thought last year, where he was the only guy competing against Akers. Akers had all these issues off the field with the team. We thought Kyron could take over, and he kind of did this game.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's worth noting. So Cam Akers, 28 snaps. He ran the ball 22 times on those 28 snaps. He had a touchdown in there. Kyron Williams, though, 15 rushes, 52 yards. He averaged 3.5 per carry. Cam Akers got 29 yards on his 22 carries. He was rough. It was not a
Yeah.
good showing from him. So probably because there's a tell when he's on the field, they're handing him the ball. So
Yes.
I
And I
mean,
think that
gosh,
also that contributed to more snaps for Kyron, as well as them kind of handling the Seahawks. So there wasn't a need for
yeah.
the perceived starter necessarily. It made more sense to get Kyron more reps.
Yeah, for sure. I'm that's the one I'm monitoring the most,
Yes.
I think, of this
The
group.
other two, I think, are almost obvious what's going to happen, but it's good to know what happened week one so we can look back at this the next 2 weeks and see what the snap percentage will actually be.
For sure. All right, let's get into some of our game previews. So this week we're going to preview the Vikings at the Eagles, the Chiefs at the Jaguars, and the Browns at the Steelers. And the first game that we are doing is the Thursday night football game. Minnesota is heading to Philadelphia. Eagles are 6.5 point home favorites, and the over/under in this game is 49. Kenneth Gainwell has already been ruled out. There's a DeAndre Swift quote out there from Nick Sirianni that he said, sometimes he's going to handle a lot of touches, and then other times he's just going to be what he was this week. And thank you, Nick Sirianni, for clearing that up for us.
Right?
So first thing, the Vikings don't know how to block when they drop back to pass. The Eagles, on the other hand, have Jalen Carter, who registered, I believe, the highest amount of pressures for a rookie. I believe in the Pro Football Focus era or something similar to that. I'm going off of memory from a tweet I saw earlier. But do you think that the Eagles are going to be able to move the ball against that defensive front?
Uh, okay, so you talked about the Vikings against the Eagles defense, but then asked it the other way. Just
No, no,
make
no.
sure.
So I'm sorry, I misspoke. Do you think the Vikings are going
Yes.
to be able to move the ball against the Eagles front? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do see some injuries on the Eagles side. Some people sitting out obviously Gainwell, but some of the defense as well. I think the passing end they'll be able to move it. I am almost sure Madison won't have more than 40 yards in the ground. Obviously, Ramondre, I think it was like 12 carries, like 27 yards. He was pretty stifled for about 2 yards a carry, and then got attacked in the passing game, which Madison can do as well. So I think they're going to be looking for a pass heavy attack against this Eagles team because they got to get the ball out quick. Reddick and Carter and everyone on that defensive line is bearing down on them very, very quick. I think they can move the ball. It's Thursday night, so I want to say it's going to be an under game. This Eagles offense also didn't look great last week, again, against its
Correct.
Patriots defense that had time to prepare. So take that with a grain of salt as well. They should look better this week against a pretty inept Vikings defense. So
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to throw the ball, and that's the only way they're going to be able to move it.
Yeah. I mean, the Vikings let Baker Mayfield cook them, like absolutely cook them.
Yes.
So I think that says a lot. But on the other side of things, the Eagles, there was a tell that Bill Belichick kind of revealed. I think it's something that we're going to see for a lot of these running quarterbacks, because a lot of those running quarterbacks have offenses that are predicated on also generating explosives with deep balls. So what Bill Belichick did is he said, okay, we're going to go bare front. We're going to clog up the middle so you can't run the ball. And then we're going to drop a ton of people into coverage. So you have to, dink and dunk your way to. Here's the thing: Vikings aren't going to do that. The Vikings are going to try to just send pressure like crazy. The
Yeah.
Eagles struggled with pressure last week, though. So I'm curious to see that portion of it. It's a decent battle. I personally think the Vikings can't move the ball against the Eagles defense. Um, Not to the extent that they need to win, I guess, is what I'll say. Like
Yeah.
they'll score points, but not
It's
enough.
a weird thing. It's Cousins is good enough. The receiving core is elite,
Yeah,
so they can move the ball. That's the issue for me. Is he going to have time? Obviously, I believe Bradbury's not going to play. I think I saw, so that helps out.
yeah,
Obviously, so if you're double teaming Jefferson, he's still going to get open. But Addison looked really good last week. Osborne is going to be fine. Oliver contributed. Uh, and then I mean, obviously
Hawkinson.
Hawkinson's a huge aspect of this team. So I do think that they have so many weapons. It's hard for me to just envision they won't be able to move the ball, even if it is just quick game and they're dinking and dunking down the field, just like the Eagles did last week. They still had fantasy relevant performances. They won the game, obviously, but we'll see how this goes. I do think Eagles win in an under game.
Yeah, I think Eagles win. I think they cover. I think they win by a touchdown. Is where
Fair.
I'd go with this. Look for a Justin Jefferson pop pass. That's how I think they're going to get their quick game going. Is they're going to get Justin Jefferson on a pop pass. That's my bold prediction for this game. Is that's
What
how
a
they're going to
bold
use it.
take.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next game. Chiefs at Jaguars. Chiefs are 3.5-point road favorites in this one. Over under is 51. Chris Jones signed a weird extension that doesn't really benefit him, and I have no idea why he did it. Outside of pretty much he has to be a defensive player of the year for him to reach even a raise for this year. Very strange. Travis Kelce was back at practice yesterday. Sounds like he was jumping. We're going to see how he recovers from that, obviously, but it sounds like he could be playing this weekend. What are you thinking about this game, man?
If Kelsey's playing, I'm pretty much all in on the over here. I think this will be a shootout. These are two, again, if Kelsey's playing, this is two of the best offenses in football for this season. The Jaguars' offense looks electric. Both running backs contributing. Three receivers really being open most of the time, even though Kirk kind of went in the shadows. But
Sadly.
Calvin Ridley is exactly who we thought he'd be. Honestly, they kept Ingram as a vital part of this. Lawrence looked good. It was kind of a fight with the Colts, but honestly, that was a lot of on Richardson's shoulders. So, I mean, you're going against the best here. And with Kelsey back, the Chiefs could easily score a ton of points here. I mean, they scored a good amount against the Lions to get close to this over-under without Kelsey. So with Kelsey, I do think a lot of things will happen. Those receivers, I mean, obviously, I don't expect Tony to have such a bad game again. Sky Moore running all those routes and getting like 2 looks, I don't think that would happen again. It's just this team is so predicated at this point on Kelsey that they weren't ready for him to get banged up during the week of the game.
Yeah, that's something I've been preaching to a lot of people. That entire offense for the Chiefs changed 3 days before the game. It's really difficult to come back from that. Especially, none of their traditional play. I mean, obviously they run the same offense. It's just the primary target is always Travis Kelce in this offense.
Yeah.
Like always, it wasn't Noah Gray.
Even if he's just a decoy and a curl route, he's still taking 2 people's eyes. That's the thing with this offense. And even without it, drops really killed him. I mean, they had at least 5 drops that easily moved the chain. I mean, the pick 6, the screen grabs from that. Tony is so open with his hands on the ball that Branch just literally shocked the ball was even there. He was coming to hit him. And he was like, oh, crap. Like he almost dropped it. He was so shocked the ball was there. That was such a bad drop. It's ridiculous kind of thing. And I don't expect that to happen again. But that's Tony. We know Tony's up and down. He gets in his head. That was a bad mental game for him. He'll bounce back. I don't know about this week, but he'll bounce back.
I don't know if he'll be on the field much this week. We'll find out.
He's gonna earn the trust back.
Yeah. So Christian Kirk versus Zay Jones. Are you comfortable starting either of them, both of them, or neither of them?
I would like to say I'm comfortable starting Zay this week because that's what we saw last week. In the 2 receiver sets, it was Zay.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that says. It doesn't make any sense to me, but
he actually led them in snaps. He had 62 snaps to Calvin Ridley's 57, and then Christian Kirk was down at 42. So,
it
interesting.
Doesn't make any sense.
Interesting, but for sure.
It's basically, I mean, because those 2 are flex plays for you, and with it being high over under, I mean, we got guys like Mostert's banged up. We have so many wide receivers that went down. Obviously, Dobbins out. You got a ton of little injuries here and there. I think both are definitely playable and hope for the touchdown or hope for a better game. And if it is a shootout, they're going to be in more 3 wide receiver sets. So I think everyone can eat. But obviously, Ridley is the guy here. Plain and simple.
Yeah, that's definitive after 1 week. Really, after all of
It is.
preseason, to be honest.
That's the only week one take I'm all right with. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We just needed to see it once to confirm it.
Yes.
All right. Next game. Oh, wait. Who are you taking in this game?
Um, I'll do Chiefs or bounce back. I just can't envision Chiefs being 0-2.
I'm going to go Jaguars to cover and the over. And I think the Chiefs win by a field goal on a last second field goal, actually.
Sounds
So we've
almost
got
like
a
a
pot
storybook
pass.
ending. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a pot pass and we've got a last minute field goal, last second field goal.
Yes.
So these are my
Somehow by
takes.
Mahomes because he's a magician.
Right. All right. Next game, Browns at the Steelers. This is the Monday Night Football game. Browns are 2-point favorites on the road. I'm sure this line will change by the time Monday rolls around. Over under is 39, so real gross. Deontay Johnson out for at least 4 weeks, it sounds like. Hamstring injury. Hoping for the best when he gets back. Amari Cooper left the game. I haven't seen anything on him. Do you know if he's okay?
I think he's all right, but again, the Browns sat a lot of people in the fourth quarter, so there's a lot of hit or miss with stuff like that. I think he's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's not in, I mean, Elijah Moore is the must play, and
Yeah. I still
he
think he
he looked
is.
good.
Yeah. I think you start him this week, right? I mean, either
I
way.
I would say yes
Yeah.
because it's a weird outlook for the Steelers defense. It looked good last week, but again, it was going against the 49ers. They were able to run the ball, they were able to throw the ball. I'd argue the 49ers offense is better than the Browns last week pretty easily. But the running game was at least equivalent, if not better, for the Browns. So they're definitely going to be attacking that way. I do think they pass more this game. I do think this is an over. I do think they get over 39. I do think that bumps as well. Once we hear about Amari, once we kind of move a couple things here. But I'm taking the Browns. I think Amari plays, and I think they can win here. Kenny Pickett looked terrible. She didn't look good.
No one
Pickens
looked
didn't
good.
look good.
Pickens was pretty bad. Frymouth caught one ball and got hurt on it. So I think that's another reason the line might be low. I think Frymouth's going to play. It was just a chest injury, but I think there's some skepticism about some of that right now.
Yes. So I mean, Firemouth, we'll see about him playing. We know Deontay's out. What about Calvin Austin? I mean,
Dude, I've been a Calvin Austin fan since he came out. You remember our
I know
draft?
we
Draft takes.
argued a little
We did.
bit, but we
We
both liked
did.
him enough.
I'm intrigued, but also that Browns defense. I know the weather was impactful. That Browns defense is legit. Um,
Yes.
and I'm concerned that this pass rush is not all that different from the 49ers pass rush. And so we kind of know what Kenny Pickett is under pressure. That kind of bodes well for Calvin Austin, though. That's the battle in my head, because like Calvin Austin
Exactly.
can be that quick game guy.
So that's my question is if Fryermuth's out, are you willing to play Austin in the flex this week? Or are you going with like Allen Robinson, who most people think is toast?
So Allen looked okay last week.
I
But
know he
I
did.
never thought I'd say that again. I no, if Fryermuth's out, I think I'd be comfortable with Calvin. If Fryermuth's in, I think I'd roll Allen Robinson.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think they do a lot of three receiver sets if Fryermuth's healthy.
right, I agree. Man, that's tough.
It's
Honestly, I
yeah.
don't really want a piece of the Steelers' offense at this point.
It's
I think
fair.
that's where I land.
The only
So
one I wanted this year was Deontay, which we'll get. Also, can they just put him in the IR? Because there's a few leagues where he has to be in the IR to go on the IR spot. I need
yeah,
that place right now.
yeah, definitely. I don't think they're going to, but we'll see.
So greedy.
Yeah. I'm going to take the Browns, and I'm going to take the over, but just barely, like
Yeah,
42 points or something crazy like that.
and I obviously with a -2, I'm not taking the Steelers to cover.
Yeah. Weird line. Don't love it.
No way it stays -2, right?
No, like I
They'll
think
go to
it'll,
at least 3.5 for a push
yeah.
scenario.
or even one if they want like two. I don't understand two. All right, let's get into our against the grain fantasy football starts. We talked about this last week, but these are guys that these aren't your superstars. These aren't your start Deshaun Watson, start Joe Burrow, start. I was gonna say someone on the Steelers. There's someone on the Steelers that's like, oh, gotta start him anymore. But what this is kind of guys that you might not be thinking about for your lineup this week, even in shallow leagues. These are guys that could be good flex plays, good for your lineup in this week. Randy, who is yours this week?
Yeah, I went Nico Collins. I'm shooting for the same thing as last week. I went with Rashad White last week. Had the opportunity, 19 touches. It just didn't capitalize how it should have. Even the Bucks even won. He just didn't get a lot of great blocking for his rushing attempts and only got 10 yards through the air. Didn't get that touchdown he needed. But the opportunities there, 19 touches at running back is great. I'm doing the same thing here with Nico Collins. 11 targets last week. Led the team in targets, tied for the lead in receptions. Looked good. Him and Robert Woods looked like a pretty good tandem out there. But he looked like the clear one for this team. They weren't able to run the ball last week. They're going up against the Colts this week. Definitely a better option to run the ball. But the Colts were dotted up through the air last week. Everyone was able to get a good piece. I think Collins is the one can really dominate this game. And I wouldn't be shocked if he broke the 100-yard barrier and got a score here.
Yeah, I think this is a good call. I warmed up to Nico Collins, kind of this offseason. He wasn't. I wasn't a fan of him in the draft, and I haven't really liked what I've seen. Most of his career, his young career. But yeah, I think he's the favorite of CJ Stroud. I think when the season ends, I think Nico Collins is going to be the one for that team this year. So. All right. Mine, I don't love it. I'm going with Tutu Atwell this week. Everyone's on Puka Nakua. I think rightfully, I mean, Puka got 15 targets last week, and I understand why people are in on him. But Tutu Atwell was out there, and he looked just as good. And I would argue that there were times where Tutu actually looked like the better receiver, and we have hard proof that he can do a lot of what Puka was doing. Tutu last week, 8 targets, 6 receptions, 119 yards, matched Puka with 119 yards. Actually, the kicker here. So they played the Rams this week, or not the Rams, the 49ers.
The 49ers.
Yeah, the Rams played the 49ers. I'm very concerned, very, very concerned about the Rams offensive line against this pass rush. We just saw what it did to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Tutu is certainly more of a yards per reception type of guy instead of a possession type of guy, right? Stretching the field.
Yeah.
I do think that Sean McVay is going to be smart enough, creative enough, whatever you want to say, to get Tutu the ball down the field. I think that they're going to be able to throw the ball. I think this Rams team is a little better than we thought it was. I think a lot of that could be the Seahawks team isn't as good as we thought it was, but I think that Tutu Atwell is a viable flex play. You're looking at him to potentially score a deep touchdown in a Deshaun Jackson type of manner. And I think that you leave that in the flex and you kind of hope that he gets you a big week. That's what I'm going with here.
Yeah, I'm concerned. I'm concerned for Puka more than Tutu for sure. Also, just the best names right now. Mainly because the 49ers have dominated the Rams over the last few years.
Yeah.
I can't think. I know it's like at least 7 of the last 10 they've won by a lot. They're not even like close wins. And there's been some good Rams teams in those years. So Shanahan kind of owns McVay. They saw what Puka did last week. They saw he was by far the only person Stafford really loved, even with Tutu doing some good things out there. And honestly, kind of playing better than I thought he ever could, if I'm going to be honest. I've definitely not been a Tutu Atwell stan by any means.
Me neither.
Kind of laughed on air during that draft pick. So shows a lot.
That's still on YouTube somewhere too.
Yeah, stuff happens. And I think it's still very, very fair. But yeah, with Puka Nakua getting 15 targets or catches, I can't remember.
Targets and catches.
It felt like 15 catches. So 15 targets last week. The 49ers know that. They're going to focus on that. They're going to key in on the run game. They're not going to let Kyron or Cam really get going. They're not gonna let Puka get going if they can, which their secondary looked like they could stop anyone last week. Uh, I don't know if that continues, but against Puka Nakua, I think they can. And if all that attention's going there, Higbee was a little bit banged up too. I mean, especially if he's not playing, Tutu is going to be the only guy I think might be able to get open.
Yeah. And that's so the other piece of this is they're gonna throw it at least
They have to.
35 times. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, their defense, while it played well last week, it's not I don't think that they're going to be able to stop this 49ers offense. I don't think anyone really can. That's my take right now on the 49ers offense, but that means that they're going to have to counterpunch, right? And I think Tutu is their best bet to counterpunch. I'm excited to watch this game. Matthew Stafford looked a million times better than I thought he was going to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
excited for this game.
Pickett threw the ball 46 times last week, and I expect it'll be near the same for Stafford this week.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that'll do it for the TDR NFL show. Drop a comment, like, subscribe. Go find the podcast version of this. We're dropping this on the Debbie Royale feed as well, so go check that out. Randy, anything else to add before we get into week 2?
No, I mean, calm down over week 1. There's a lot of great players. The goose egg can kind of cost a lot of people. Saw a few people. I think Coach Bruce tweet out that someone dropped Deontay for Allen Robinson today. Don't do crazy stuff like that.
Don't do
Like
that.
let's pull the reins back. Don't blow your whole fab on Puka Nakua and Kyron Williams. Unfortunately, it's probably too late to tell you that. There's going to be better solutions, but we're going to get there, guys. It's week 1. Everyone wants to win that first week, but we'll get there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that'll do it. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you guys next week.